China. Known for its harsh punishments, censorship of the media, and an abhorrent number of individual rights and freedoms, China is known as one of the worst places to live in the world. But what if I told you that there is more to China that Western media isn't showing you, and that China is better than it seems, and is actually comparable to a country such as Sweden? You would think I'm crazy, right? But I recently delved deeper and did some research of my own, and let's just say that China is doing better than you might expect. China, economically, is a powerhouse. Now, before I continue the video, I just want us to get familiar with the terms producer country and consumer country. What a producer country is a country that plays a significant role in the extraction, manufacturing, or generation of specific goods or services. This basically means that they are essential to the rest of the world, and in particular, consumer countries. Consumer countries are countries where household spending make up a large percentage of its GDP. These countries are countries like the USA, Australia, Canada, and much of Europe. Anyways, back to what I was talking about. With a GDP of almost 18 trillion USD, China is the largest producer country in the world. While this is by itself impressive, it's not the end of the story. You see, China is also the second largest consumer country in the world as well, spending almost 11 trillion yuan, or about 2 trillion USD every year, making it the second largest consumer market in the world. So, I ask you this: if China is so poor, how has it become such a large consumer market? Well, it's because much of China just isn't poor. As of 2018, China's middle class was comparable to that of Sweden, with both countries having the same percentage of the population in the middle class, that being 51%. In fact, as of today, the average Chinese citizen has over 41,000 RMB in disposable income after tax, with a steady increase of about 5% every year, with the exception of 2020 to 2022 due to COVID-19. Now, when I went to China, one of the first things I noticed was the sheer number of high-rises there was. It was dystopian yet intimidating, because these high-rises were shooting up everywhere. If you look at what China looked like in the 80s, you'll see poverty and slums every which way, but having a look at it now, you see high-rises and apartments everywhere, with communal green space in each development. I had a look at the floor plan of one of the apartments in the outer areas of Beijing, and it doesn't look all that bad. It's 50 square meters, 2 bedroom, 2 bathroom, and for under $50 a week, this is incredible value. But unfortunately, this is where the glazing ends. This is the part where China lacks. China is known for its control of the media and almost hatred for free speech. However, this isn't entirely true. You see, within China's constitution, there is a subsection on freedom of speech, specifically Article 35, which guarantees citizens freedom of speech, press, assembly, association, procession, and demonstration. However, in practice, the Chinese government places significant restrictions on these freedoms, often using clauses like subversion of state power and protection of state secrets to prosecute those who criticize the government. This isn't the only thing the Chinese constitution is in support of that you may be unaware of. You see, the constitution is also in support of the right to vote, the right to criticize and make suggestions to state organs, inviolability of personal freedom, no unlawful arrest or detention, personal dignity, religious belief, material assistance in old age, sickness and disability, right to education and the equality of women, which is something that even the US Constitution didn't have until the 1920s when the 19th Amendment was passed. It's no secret that China is one of the most closed-off countries in the world, with the government only allowing the citizens of China to view roughly only 5% of media created outside of China. While this level of gatekeeping is seen barely anywhere else in the world, what China does have is the internet. Well, a version of it. The CCP doesn't allow Chinese people to access many popular social media platforms such as Instagram, Snapchat, Reddit, Twitter, YouTube, and more. In fact, almost all Western social media platforms are banned in China, except for TikTok, which is allowed but operates under a different name, Douyin, and has different servers. But other than that, it is the same. The social media platforms that Chinese people use are monitored heavily by the state, and the state has power to remove users and posts as they wish. These platforms include Weixin, or WeChat, Xiaohongshu, or RedNote, and Weibo, otherwise known as Weibo. These platforms are the only access Chinese people have to the outside internet without using a VPN, which I'll get into later. While it may seem that Chinese people are strictly restricted to only consuming Chinese media, this isn't the case. You know how I mentioned VPNs earlier? Yeah, well, they are massive in China. In fact, almost 40% of all Chinese people with internet access use a VPN to access restricted media and apps such as X, TikTok, Instagram, and streaming services. Using VPNs in China is illegal, but the use of VPNs has become so widespread that the Chinese government isn't even bothering to enforce the law. However, one freedom that is encouraged by the CCP is the freedom to travel. 89.6% of people that travel to and from China are either mainland Chinese or offland Chinese citizens, making up a total of 546 million people traveling to and from the country each year. That is well over a third of the total population of China. If China was so obsessed with keeping its people blind to Western ideologies, why would they allow millions of people to travel to Western countries each year? One message that Western media pushes onto the people is that China is corrupt, but this isn't really the case. While yes, there is corruption in China, it is also a priority of the current government. Since 2012, Xi Jinping has led a significant anti-corruption campaign within the Chinese Communist Party, aimed at strengthening party loyalty and governance. This extensive effort has seen millions of officials investigated. As of early 2023, approximately 2.3 million government officials had been prosecuted, and by early 2022, around 4.7 million people had been punished for various violations. The campaign has targeted both high-ranking tigers and low-level flies, with official statistics indicating over 4 million officials prosecuted between 2013 and 2021, including hundreds at or above the provincial level. Xi Jinping's anti-corruption campaign is widely considered to be the largest organized anti-corruption effort in the history of CCP rule in China, and is widely known as a huge success. Overall, China is incredible, and you must give them credit for what they have achieved, especially if you look at it from a historical perspective. China has had an incredible comeback in recent years, from being one of the poorest countries to one of the richest in just a couple of years, and this type of change has been unseen in all of human history. And when I was there, you could really feel a sense of pride at what China had achieved and hope for China's future. People seemed genuinely happy, which is something you don't see much in the West, especially places like New York City or London, where people are just trying to get by and minding their own business. China, as it is, isn't the best place to live, but it's not this hellscape that Western, particularly American media, makes it out to be. China is steadily improving each year, and who knows what the future has in store for China.